It just seems like editing must be so much harder when you don't plot.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I plot, but I also edit as I write. So I think I was listening to an interview, I believe it was Patterson, who said that before he sits down to write every day, he edits whatever he wrote the day before. And I'm like, you know what? That sounds good. I'll try it. And it has been so helpful because it gets me back into the story, especially when you're working on more than one project. But I need to plot. I don't know. And Dabble with the plotting too, honestly, it's
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, and Dabble
Wow.
has the plot grid has really helped
Yes.
me to conceptualize the story without feeling like I'm writing out
Yes,
a high
it
school
honestly,
English
it is
outline.
so great just having the different added notes that you can have for different
Right.
storylines. That's not even the way that I was plotting before, where I kind of plotted by act, by beats, like I would do
Yeah.
like scene by scene almost. But I never thought to break up the different storylines, even when I used to plot like on a big wall at home and not
Yeah.
on paper or on the computer. It's yeah, that tool has been really great. It's my favorite part,
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Did you was it difficult to kind of translate the way you were planning to kind of this
To
new plot
um,
grid style planning?
Not honestly, it wasn't that. I think if you're not a plotter, it might be a little bit more difficult. Like if you're not used to even having a layout,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more difficult. But again, the reason I liked it so much is that it wasn't so strict. That if you didn't plan out before, you could literally just have a couple of scenes and go from there. Like you don't need to go
Right.
all out. But I think for me, because I was so excited to try something new and to try it before Nano, that it wasn't that difficult to transition. And now I have so many more things to work with, whether I didn't have them before. I find it's easier not to write yourself into a plot hole with this grid.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was plotting just straight scene by scene or in a notebook, there would still be holes. And as I'm writing, I would have to go back and change some stuff and edit.
Yeah. The way I look at outlining and the Dabble plot grid definitely helps me with this is I like to think of it in terms of like a road trip. And
Hmm.
if you were in Southern California, like Los Angeles, and you were going to take a road trip to New York, somewhere in the northeast of America, there are a dozen different ways you could go to get there. You know, you could drive along the south, you could go directly through the middle of the country, you could go
Yep.
up north and go. Um, you know, but I like to think of like tent poles
Hmm.
along the way. These are destinations that I absolutely want to hit, and then
Yes.
what happens between them?
The world's biggest
Maybe,
ball of yarn. For
yeah,
example.
yeah, yeah. Maybe we want to see the world's biggest ball of yarn,
Yeah.
or the St. Louis Arch, or whatever, along the way. Well, that will, depending on what kind of waypoints I've laid out, may
Hmm.
determine how I get there, and
Yep.
that leaves enough kind of chaos and mystery there that keeps me excited every day. But I know where that destination is that I have to write
Right.
toward, and the plot grid helps me lay that out and make
Hmm.
sure that I'm shooting toward that
Yeah.
next,
And that's
checkpoint.
exactly when I work with book coaching and different authors. That's exactly what we try to think about. Is you want to hit just certain points, like, and just so you know where you're going. If you're not a
Yeah.
plotter, and that's in the fast way of plotting that I was talking about in the video, is like just figure out where you start, where your midpoint is, where you're going to end up, and if you have a twist, what that twist is. Just if you have those points, it's a lot easier to work towards them, and it will help you develop the story too. I find as soon as I start plotting, it gives me ideas of where the story could go, especially if you're writing mystery. I know a couple, I think two authors maybe, that write mystery without plotting, and I'm amazed by them.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I think for them, they're like, if I'm surprised about who the killer is, the reader will be as well. I'm like, that's a really good way of thinking about it. My brain could never.
Yeah, and to me, you're required to write the book twice because
Yes.
you can kind of figure out where you're going,
Mhm.
but then you have to go back and you have to put in your red herrings
Yeah,
and
all those
put
little
in
breadcrumbs and
clues.
clues, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's just, just spend a little time
Hmm.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
Leave yourself plenty of room to write mysteriously, but
Hmm.
there's some things you need to plan
You
out. It
need to
just
know, yeah.
yeah.
I usually do plan that out, but it's surprising. It's been actually interesting in the last couple of books that I've been working with. When I get to the point that I plotted of the twist and the killer, something else comes to me, and it's always, and then I have to rework it a bit because it was a shocking twist that even I didn't expect, and so I think that's been helping too. It's both worlds in a way.